A firm America will be of the utmost moment to the peace and liberty of the states as a barrier against domestic cliques and insurrection. It is impossible to read the history of the insignificant republics of Greece and Italy without feeling sensations of horror and disgust at the distractions with which they were continually upset and at the rapid succession of revolutions by which they were kept in a state of never ending shifts between the extremes of tyranny, which is the far right, and anarchy, the far left. If now and then gaps of happiness open to view, we see them with a mixture of regret, appearing from the reflection that the joyous scenes before us are soon to be overwhelmed by the violent waves of agitation and political party rage. If moments of glory break from the gloom while they dazzle us with a momentary and short-lived intensity, they at the same time criticize us to grieve that the habits of government should distort the direction and stain the radiance of those bright talents and superior foundations for which the favored ground that produced them have been so justly celebrated. From the chaos that damaged the history of those republics, the supporters of the one-man rule have drawn arguments not only against the forms of democratic government, but against the very principles of civil liberty. They have attacked our free government as inconsistent with the order of America, and have humored themselves in hateful pleasure over its friends and supporters. Happily for mankind, remarkable structures reared on the basis of liberty, which have flourished for ages, have in a few instances rejected their gloomy false beliefs, and I trust America will be the comprehensive and solid foundation of other structures, not less impressive, which will be equally everlasting monuments of their mistakes. But it is not to be denied that the image they have sketched of democratic government were too just of the original history from which they were taken. If it had been found unfeasible to have devised models of a more perfect constitution, informed friends of liberty would have been obligated to abandon origin of that type of government as unacceptable. The effectiveness of various principles is now well understood which were imperfectly known to the ancients. The regular distribution of power into different branches, the introduction of congressional balances and checks, the institution of courts composed of judges holding their offices during good behavior. Note, contrary to life appointment, whether in Federalist 83, this means that actually it is in alignment with how the judges are actually in coordination with the constitutional supremacy, with the constitutional contract. So they're not negating the constitutional supremacy, and if they do, that is bad behavior. That is not aligned with good behavior. The representation of the people in the Congress by deputies of their own vote, these are wholly new discoveries or have made their primary progress towards perfection in today's time. There are methods and powerful methods by which the excellence of democratic government may be kept and its imperfections reduced or avoided. To this checklist of circumstances that tend to the improvement of popular systems of civil government, I shall add one more on a principle which has been made the foundation of a refusal to the proposed constitution. I mean the expansion of the path within which such systems are to revolve, either in respect to the scope of a single country or to the unification of several smaller states into one great country. So they're talking about the critics who are against expanding limited government, right? The advantage of one country composed of smaller states as well to subdue cliques and to defend the internal peace of states as to increase their force against invasion and security is in reality not a new idea. The enemies of the Constitution proposed have with great concentration cited and circulated the observations of Montesquieu, I didn't say that right, but who cares, on the necessity of a contracted territory for democratic government, but they seem not to have been informed of the opinions of the great man expressed in another part of his work, nor to have indicated to the consequences of the principles to which they subscribe with such ready agreement. When Montesquieu recommends a small extent for government, so small government, the standards he had in view were of elements far short of the limits of almost every one of these states. Neither Virginia, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina, nor Georgia can by any means be compared with the models from which critics supports based on the terms of his description. If we take his ideas referred as the measurement of truth, we shall be driven to the alternative either of taking sanctuary at once in the arms of a monarchy, or of splitting ourselves into an infinity of little jealous clashing turbulent states, the miserable nurseries of unending disagreements and the miserable objects of universal pity or disdain. Such a seduced policy, such a desperate plan, might, by the manipulation of petty officers, answer the view of men who possess not authority to expand their influence beyond the small circles of personal interest, but it could never promote the greatness or happiness of the people of America. It will be sufficient to remark here that it would only request a reduction of the size of the larger members of the Union, but would not discourage against their being realized in one national government. So delusional are the critics' suggestions of Montesquieu's from disagreeing to a union of individual states that he calls a federal republic as advantages for extending the domain of popular democratic government and accommodating the advantages of monarchy with those of popular government. It is very likely that humanity could have been forced to live constantly under the government of a single person had they not orchestrated a kind of constitution that housed all the internal advantages of a popular government together with the foreign force of a monarchical government, I mean a democratic republic. This form of government is an agreement by which smaller states agree to become members of a larger union which they intend to form. It is the kind of collection of societies that constitute a new one capable of increasing by means of new alliances till they arrive to such a degree of power as to be able to provide for the security of the united country. A republic of this kind, able to withstand an external force, may support itself without any domestic corruptions. The form of this union prevents all manner of problems if a single entity should attempt to take over the supreme authority, which is our constitutional supremacy. He could not be supposed to have a legitimate authority and confidence in all the states. Were violators to have too great influence over one state, this would alarm the rest. Were he to conquer a state or branch, that which would still remain free might oppose him with force independent of those which he had taken over and overpower him before he could be settled in his takeover. Should a popular insurrection happen in one of the states, the other states are able to crush it. Should abuses creep into one part, they are reformed by those that remain sound. The Constitution may be destroyed on one side and not on the other. The country may be dissolved and the states keep their independence. As the Constitution is composed of small states, it enjoys the internal peace of each, and with respect to its external situation, it is possessed by means of the union of all the advantages of large monarchies. The definition of the union seems simply to be a collection of societies or an association of two or more states into one country. So long as the separate self-government of the states be not abolished, so long as it exists by constitutional necessity for local purposes, though it should be in perfect inferiority to the constitutional authority of the Union, so like Amendment 10, it will still be a union. The proposed constitution doesn't abolish state governments, but makes them essential parts of the national sovereignty by allowing them a direct representation in the Senate and leaves them certain exclusive and very important portions of independent power. That is Federalist 9. We're going to do Federalist 10.